And we got the little circling thing. We are good to go. Wendy, how are you doing today?
Never better.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Another great day here in the great state of Tennessee and all across the nation. So Jon C here with Wendy Lee, and we are talking about money moves. And we're getting ready to talk about a subject a lot of you should probably be thinking about, because I know we get a lot of small business owners, right? Wendy, I'm a business owner. You're a business owner.
Yep.
So we talk about all these things you can do, but what are some of the mistakes, some of the pitfalls? So today we're going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that small business owners make with their money. So the 5 money mistakes. Sorry, it's been one of those days, but the 5 mistakes business owners make. So we'll get started in just a second. We'll allow some people to jump in, reach out, share the video, and let them know we're getting ready to go live. And we're back live, Wendy. I don't know about this topic. I'm excited about it.
It's a good one.
It is. It is. It's one of
and
those
I think I've made all the mistakes.
Well, here's the truth. Haven't we all? At least 2 or 3 on this list. I guarantee, folks, you guys listening, you will. Oh yeah, I did that. I did that too. I did, and that's okay as long as you're.
Some people are still doing it.
That's right, and that's why we're trying to help others be proactive. So that's what this show is all about. Money moves. We're trying to teach people how to create an income, how to grow their money, save their money, and protect it from market losses and taxes. But today we're going to help you as a business owner avoid some of those pitfalls with regards to that's going to cost you money with regards to mistakes you make in your business, right? Mm-hmm. So Wendy, what would you think that number one, I'm starting a business, I'm ready to roll. What do you think that number one thing, that number one mistake that happens right out of the gate?
So can I preface it with a really quick story?
Yes, of course.
So I did an amazing race when I was in Cabo with our company. And so one of the first things that was like, whoa, we're going to win. One of the girls on our team brought a map. And I was like, of the resort we were in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Genius. But we had a map before we took off, and we had to go all these different places. And P.S., we won out of like 36 teams. And I believe one of the main reasons we won, other than prophetically naming ourselves victory, was that we had a map. So I think one of the biggest problems we have in a business is no plan.
Yep.
Right? Not knowing where we're going, like the lack of plan and the lack of vision.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, so many business owners, they're good at something and they want to do it and they want to run. They're excited. The adrenaline's going. Let's just hit the ground running. We'll figure it out as we go. And that's the worst mistake you can make. That's the worst mistake you can make. And that, I've used an analogy of going to Disney World with my family, getting in a car, just driving around. Same thing. I deal with it all the time in retirement planning. When I talk to families, it's like, you're just hoping that works out. You're hoping your IRA or your 401k works out. It's the same way with a business. You don't just want to hope your business works out. There's a lot of moving parts to a business. And just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're going to be able to run a business successfully. And that's where that plan comes into place, right?
Yeah. And I hear all the time, like, oh, it's just ignorance on fire. And I'm like, to an extent, right? But ignorance on fire with the proper mentor showing you what next steps, right? No matter what, there's got to be a plan. Yeah. Absolutely.
No, that's ignorance on fire. I can honestly say I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Oh, really?
No, but I now that you said it, it's like, I could definitely see where that would come into play. So, but that's and it doesn't have to be anything formal. I mean, I'm not talking a full blown business plan. If you started, selling something on the side, or in Etsy or Etsy or whatever it is, or you're on your different groups, or even an Amazon reseller, or your network marketing. I mean, there's a lot of plans in place, but you personally, you still need a plan on what you're trying to do, right? Where am I going?
Yeah.
Okay. What am I trying to do? And you kind of keep that idea of, what do I want to spend on this? We'll talk about that as well today, but that first thing out of the gate, before you even leave the gate, I would agree 100%, Wendy. I mean, you definitely need that plan. So number 2, and we've talked about this before, is when you start making money, commingling that money, meaning keeping my personal account and my business account all under one roof. So it's all in there because it's all mine at the end of the day, right? That's what we tell ourselves. And that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for disaster for a couple of different reasons. Number one, you don't really know what your business is doing.
Yeah. Like, are you profitable?
I don't know. I got money in there. So yeah, but how much is from your day job or your other side gigs or whatever the case may be? And that's one of the things that you want to, if you want to have a business, I don't care if you've got two businesses, you should have two separate accounts. If I'm doing, Uber at nights until my business gets up and running or whatever you're doing, you want to keep that stuff separate. And here's the big thing on that. Like you said, is my business making money? You've got to know that, because so many people get so wrapped up in the excitement and things like that this is my baby. I want to make it work. If it ain't paying you, you shouldn't be doing it. Now, I'm talking long term, right? It's going to be a struggle out of the gate. All businesses are like that. Mm-hmm. But you want to keep your eye on the ball. What other things might cause problems with that? With
commingling? Yeah. Well, not understanding your expenses, right? Which we kind of just said, but I want to dig into that for a second, because I'm in network marketing, right? That industry. And so many people, I think it's twofold. It's like they don't know, when they just get the money in and they spend it on, their business, they turn around and spend it, or they use the debit card the company gives them, or they put it right into their account. They're not knowing what they're spending their money on that's actually a business expense. And you don't realize what money you're actually making. And you can start to feel like a failure, I think, because you're like, I don't even know if I'm profitable. And you might be, but because you don't track it, you're like, I do all this work and I don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
So I think understanding, bringing in and going, this is my business money. This is what I'm spending on my business. And I say this about anything, but if you don't know your numbers, you can't adjust, right? You can't adjust. You don't know what to change. So if I'm in a business for a year and I can see, here's what my commissions were, and here's what my expenditures were, here's what's then you can make wise decisions. But if it's all just in there together, there's no way to even make a good decision.
Well, and even take that a step further, you talk about where do you spend your money in your business and things like that. You also want to know, okay, if I'm spending it on X, Y, or Z, what return on that investment am I getting? And as a business owner, you want to try different things. What you don't want to do is continue down and do the same thing for the next month, the next month, the next month, the next month. And don't get me wrong, if it's working, that's great. But you always want to say, what else could we do? And that's where that investment comes in. So if you're not tracking it, it's just all kind of commingling in there, and you're not, okay, yeah, I bought these widgets that are going to help me take my business to the next level, but you don't keep track of what you spent on them and what increase had happened. Like you said, you want those numbers. You need to know your numbers, inspect what you expect, and that's going to really help take it to the next level. But that's just some of the problems about not having separate accounts.
Yeah.
And then, you start to get to a point where you get in that bad habit of commingling those accounts, and then all of a sudden your company starts growing, or your business starts growing, and then you're still doing those bad habits because you learn them small. You make changes when things are small. They're much easier to do when they're bigger, right?
Yeah.
Keep them in play. If you don't fix it when it's small, it's a major pain and ordeal to make those changes later on down the road.
The mindset too, when you have it right in the beginning, your mindset for growing it comes more naturally, right? Yeah. Because you actually see what's happening. You have a clear picture. And when you don't have, it's just like anything with vision, right? If you don't have a clear vision, a clear picture, clarity in general, you don't have the confidence.
Yeah.
I'm like, with clarity comes confidence. So when you have clarity on what your business is doing and you're doing things the right way, you have the confidence you need to grow it and go, let's, make this thing good.
Yeah.
And then as you grow it, you're set up for success instead of disaster.
Well, and that ties
up for disaster in the beginning. And let me tell you, it takes years to fix it.
Not to mention the stress. And the thing is, you look at that, it's like, where could you have been? Right? Where could you have been?
Right.
And that's what happens, again, by not really seeing what that business is doing, you're not able to adjust accordingly. And you're playing from a position of scarcity, right? That mindset of scarcity, like, okay, I don't feel like I'm doing it because you're not seeing the money come in because it's all blending in, right? It's like, well, maybe I'm doing good, maybe not. But when you see it and you have a separate account, you're like, okay, well, that cash is just stacking there because I'm living from my day job while I build up my side business or whatever the case may be. All of a sudden now you've got a war chest, to go out and do battle, and you're like making some moves, right? That's what this is all about, money moves. And you're able to be a little more confident. That's going to come over when, on your clients and everything else. When you're talking about your business, it's going to carry too, and it's going to help you accelerate even further. It's that, momentum. It just keeps feeding on itself, and it keeps going and growing. So number two, definitely, it seems simple. It seems like it's not a big deal, but it's a huge, huge deal from a psychological standpoint. Number three, tax planning. Planning on the taxes, right? We talk about taxes all the time here. It's a funny thing that the IRS, you put those two words together, the and IRS, THEIRS, and it spells theirs, because they're going to figure out a way to get theirs out of your pocketbook, out of your bank account, out of your business, right? And so you've got to have that plan from day one, right, Wendy?
Yes. I'm sitting here going, I literally just made an IRS payment today, and I made 2 last week. I've given them a lot of money this month.
Do they even give you a Christmas card? Probably not. You probably don't even get a Christmas card from them.
But I have to say, the biggest mistake I've made in business was not doing this right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I, was my first year, I'm like, oh, I made a little bit of money. And then my second year, I made what most people don't make in a year with a full-time job. And then my third year, I was almost multiple 6 figures, and never had an idea of how to do anything with taxes, because I was a W-2 employee for so long.
Yep.
And now 8 years later, and I'm finally getting it right, but I'm paying for the past mistakes. And I have talked to so many business owners. In fact, I was in the situation, in the mess, and seeing people making multiple 6 figures a month, still having tax issues. It doesn't get easier as you grow. It gets harder.
No.
And so getting it right again on the front end. And if you haven't gotten it right and you're in a big hot mess, I've been there. Send me a message. We'll chat. I'll tell you all the, all the ugly details. But now I'm like, paying my taxes is my first priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
second priority. First priority is profit first.
My profit first. But I got to pay the taxes. Like, it's a non-negotiable to put it back away, and to get the right team around us that handles your taxes right, that knows what they're doing is so important. It'll save you tens of thousands of dollars having the right accountant. Yeah.
And that's exactly right. We talked about teams earlier, and it's one of those things that don't try to do this on your own, but it's so critical that you set this up out of the gate. And even if you've been in business for a few years, it's not too late to go back and kind of get things corrected. Just like Wendy said, okay, up until this point, we were kind of making some mistakes, but now let's kind of shore up the ship a little bit and kind of tighten everything up. And what's going to happen, your business is going to run much leaner, and you're going to feel much more confident. You're not going to keep looking over your shoulder and worry about that stuff. But one of the questions I get often is, okay, I understand, John, I'm a 1099 or independent contractor, whatever you want to call it. How much should I put away for my taxes? How much should I set aside? Now, you want to pay your taxes quarterly. If you don't pay your taxes quarterly, there is a penalty. It's not significant, but it depends on, just so you know. And again, I'm not giving tax advice, talk to a professional, but you want to set aside at least, I would say 15 to 20%. Okay. That may seem like a lot, but again, just allocate. If I make $100, I know 20 of it's going to go to Uncle Sam and or state, right? Wendy and I are both in a state that has no state income tax, but we do still pay federal. So you've got to allocate for that. So look at the tax rate. You can go out, and they change often, right? So just go out to, the Google and type in IRS 2021 tax brackets. If you're single, married filing jointly, married filing independently, whatever. And then also look at your state income tax and kind of back into it. Now, keep in mind, though, you don't need to go, if your tax rate, if you look at the numbers and adds up to, 28, for example, you don't need to save 28% because you're not paying every penny at 28%. And that's a whole other conversation. But, I'd say a good swag is about 15 to 20% set aside for your taxes. And then that way you don't have to worry about it, because the last thing you want to do is be crushing it in business, thinking it's all good. And a lot of people do exactly what you did, Wendy. They come into, a side business or start a new business from that W-2 mindset thinking, oh, okay, well, this is a net check. It's not, it's gross, right? You still got to allocate that stuff out, and taxes can be a nightmare, as Wendy can attest, right? She shared a little bit of that in the past, but she got through it, she worked through it, and now she's, working with me, and we're teaching others on what not to do. So that's number 3, is not preparing for that tax liability. Number 4.
Real quick though, also one thing that changed for me, like get with somebody that knows what they're doing, your accountant, because you might want to switch from just a sole proprietor to an LLC or an LLC with an S corp. Like the way you structure your business matters.
It does,
especially as you start making more money. So that's
and really once you cross into that 6-figure world, with your business, that's where you need to really sit down. Up until then, you can kind of run it as a sole proprietor. But once you cross into that 6 figures, you need to sit down with a tax professional and really say, okay, this is what I do, and somebody that understands your specific business. Okay, network marketing can be tricky. Real estate can be tricky too. But you want to know somebody that's familiar with your business, and talk to your peers and whatnot. They probably can give you a recommendation. We've got recommendations we can introduce you to. But again, you want to get with somebody who knows what they're doing, because all that's going to do, folks, is help you keep more of your money. Okay, it's going to help you keep more of your money, period, in the story. So number 4, and this is something I got my bit of advice when I left. I was working at a hedge fund, making great money, and I was going to quit, fire my boss, best conversation, go full-time in my business. And I talked to a friend of mine, Tony Duncan. I don't know if he's listening to this. If he did, it's one of the best conversations I ever had. Thank you, Tony. He said, John, you need to set money aside for a rainy day, build a war chest. And I'm like, what do you mean, man? I'm crushing it. Money's coming in steadily. This is all good. He's like, no. Build a war chest, because what will happen is you make that leap of faith. The universe, the enemy, whoever you want to call it, is going to come at you hard. And we've all seen that. I don't know. Have you ever had that happen when you make a big move and then all of a sudden it seems like the world's against you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just, it's
2 weeks ago.
Well, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy how all this stuff happens, right? And I don't know why. I'm not trying to get all philosophical on people, but it happens.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it happens. You want to be prepared for that. Or what happens if, COVID-2 happens or something like that? Or all of a sudden, if you're making, X widgets and you need an ingredient, then all of a sudden the supply chain has gotten jacked up and now you can't have your income slows down.
There are no guarantees.
There aren't, and no guarantees in a job. So don't think, well, I'll just stay in my job and be safe. No, you're not. That's the biggest lie out there, right? So you look at with what we're doing with the self-employment, you want to make sure you've got that rainy day fund, that war chest, so you can go out there and make things happen and not worry about, okay, can I make the payroll this month or the bills this month? Because here's the funny thing, even though the money may stop coming in because of supply chain issues or whatever the case may be, the bills will keep coming in. They keep delivering that mail. I mean, it's like rain, what is it? Rain, sleet, or snow. They're bringing those bills to you. But it's one of
pay the electric bill. Yeah. And what I like to, and this is something, again, I didn't do in the beginning, and every year in network marketing, December's really slow. So my January paycheck right after Christmas would be like, wah. And I was trying to budget. And it's really hard. Like if you're in real estate, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in network marketing, it's hard to budget when your income's different every month. And when you don't have that rainy day fund, right, and you have a down month, there's nowhere to pull from, And so for me, I have a certain amount that goes into my business. So when I get a paycheck, there's a certain amount that goes to me personally, but then I pay myself an amount out of that and I don't touch the rest. So if I have a big month, it sits in there. So when I have a low month, I can pull from it. And that's been a game changer for me because it's way easier to budget when you have a steady paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. I mean, I hear that especially with realtors.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's one of the things, if you go back and if this is your first time watching Money Moves, go back and look at our episodes on YouTube. Just type in the search engine at Black Swan Money. We actually talked about this on how commission only or independent contractors can actually better manage their money, because it's a complete game changer. I came across that, probably, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, completely by accident, because I was doing the same thing, up and down, up and down. I'm living fat on the hog, whoop, whoop, making it rain up in here, right? And then all of a sudden the next month, January, you're skinny going, ooh, okay, ramen again, right? So you don't want to live like that. That's not the way. That's not going to, that's not the life you wanted. That's not why you created a business. So again, it comes back to that steady payroll. And how do you do that? Well, in that video, Wendy and I actually talk about how to set up different accounts and how you should pay yourself twice a month or every 2 weeks, whatever you're used to. And you can actually take so much stress off of your life by doing it that way, right? So, again, prepare for that rainy day and just have a little bit of buffer between what you're actually living on that 2 weeks or whatever and what you've got set in your payroll account, right? So the last one is not being proactive on debt. Now, a lot of people out there may be thinking, oh, okay, well, yeah, he's talking about being debt free. No, I'm not. Okay, no, I'm not. So, one of the things that you look at, and I'm a big Robert Kiyosaki fan, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, right? Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, great people. I love about 80% of what they say, and we're like-minded on a lot of things. But some of the things I disagree with. And here's what I disagree about in debt. There is such a thing as bad debt. We all know what that is. Credit card debt. You're racking up
debt. Yeah.
Consumer debt, right? Don't ever buy a brand new car. Buy a new to you car. It's a couple years old, right? Let somebody else take the hit on it. But when it comes to investing in your business, and this goes back to also why, when you talk about keeping track of your numbers and things like that, you want to invest in your business. If not, you'll always be on that, you've heard it like a guerrilla, bootstrap marketing or, guerrilla marketing or just, shoestring budget or whatever, shoestring budget. There it is. Yeah. Sorry. But your business, you want to run it like that initially. You don't want to go crazy and start running up a bunch of credit cards, buying product and having a bunch of product in your garage or, inventory sitting around and things like that. But you want to invest in marketing and things like that. And, learning the things where your shortfalls, you should be, talking to yourself, okay, where am I good at? Where am I bad at? Who can help me with that? And bring in some of those people. That's actually how Wendy and I met. I met her at a conference and I was struggling with social media and I hired her. I'm like, man, this lady knows what she's doing. I want to get my game up in that area. I tried doing it on my own, with that bootstrap for a couple of years, and it sucked. I'm just going to be honest, right? I'll own it. And we've taken it to that kind of next level. I'm still learning and things like that. But you've got to be okay with investing in your business, and that's going to happen in a lot of cases from the profits. But if you're at a point where, okay, I know if I make this move, and you want to have a plan, it's okay to take on a little debt for your business. Pay it off as soon as you can, right? But it's okay to use debt proactively to grow your business, okay? Not a lot. I'm not saying go out and rack a bunch of debt up, but proactively to grow your business, making some moves, pay it down, make some moves, pay it down, right? You get what I'm saying, Wendy?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to take a chance on yourself. Right. And, I do coaching and there a lot of times people have what it takes to really grow their income. They just need direction and they're afraid. They're like, I don't want to take out a loan. I don't want to take on debt to hire a coach. But sometimes that can help you go from 0 to 6 figures in a year versus 4 years. So how much are you really making, right? You're actually making a ton of money. It's a good investment. And that's where, sometimes taking on debt can be an investment. So it's always different in each scenario. And you got to just evaluate that. Like, what's the return with that investment in you?
Yeah. And tying into that, what we were talking about earlier about having a team around, I mean, you've got to ask yourself, is this the highest and best use of my time? Is this my skill set? Right. It may be, like when he was talking about, I'm going to hire a coach. It may be, I need this software to automate some of my processes. And that's what we're really trying to do is how can I build a better machine? And if you're not handling your money correctly in all of these steps, right? And we'll go back through them before we wrap up. But, all these steps, that's what your focus is, okay, I'm looking over my shoulder. I got to make it to the next, billing cycle or something like that, especially if you're in a business where you're billing and you're not getting your income for 30 days after your billing or something like that. I mean, if you're in one of those traditional type businesses, it can get a little hairy and scary, that cash flow challenges. And that is the number one killer of most businesses out there are cash flow issues. Yeah. Because they're running way too lean, right? And they're not, growing in the right places, things like that. And that's where looking at this big picture and kind of pulling back, that can help you light years ahead from a stress level, from a growing faster capability, right? I'm able to grow faster and things like that. And so that's one of the things we wanted to bring it up today. So just to kind of recap on that, number one, don't hit the ground running without some kind of plan in place. Okay. Where are you going? What are you trying to do? And what's that going to look like? So that's number one. Number two is not separating the personal account from the business account on the finances, right? You want to keep those two separate. Number 3 is not planning for that rainy day, right? Not planning for that storm, not planning for that all of a sudden we didn't make any money for 2 weeks kind of deal. You got to plan for that. Number 4 is, number 3 was the tax liability.
Yeah.
So number 4 was the rainy day. So now preparing for the tax liability, not preparing for the rainy day. And then lastly is being proactive on that debt. There is such a thing as bad debt in business too. And I think you're all smart enough to kind of figure that out. So, but don't be afraid to grow your business and take on a little debt. As long as the business is paying for it, it's okay. And that's something you got to look at too. Can the business afford to pay for this debt? Yeah, it can't afford that big layout of 10 grand, but we can afford to pay that, $500 a month for the next whatever months, right? To make sure we get it paid off and everything else. And there's some tax benefits to that too. But anything to add on that, Wendy?
No, I think those are great. Great. I mean, we could do a whole show about each one of those.
Seriously, you could. I'm thinking, okay, keep it short. But yeah, you could. Yeah. So again, the whole purpose of this show, Money Moves, we're trying to show families, business owners, individuals, right? How can I make more money in my life? Because there's a ton of money out there, right, to be made. You just got to, like Wendy said, you got to have the right people around you showing you the ropes, showing you how to do it. And, this is all just a big game. And so many of you, and myself included for a period, Wendy, I know for a while, we tried to play that game without knowing the rules and scratching our head going, why aren't we winning? And it's because you don't know the rules. So that's what this show is about. We're trying to teach people how to, make that money, increase that income, create multiple streams of income. We're trying to teach them how to save more of their money, being smart about where they're spending their money. We're trying to show them how to grow that money, get that money working for you, right? And then lastly, how to protect that money against market losses, taxes, things like that. That's what this whole show is about. So do us a favor. If you're watching us on YouTube after the fact, do us a little favor, click that subscribe button and share it. That's our whole motto, right? Watch, learn, subscribe, and share. That's what we want you to do, trying to get the word out to help people. If you do need some individual help, reach out to me at johncleaver.com. You can follow us on there as well, and then you can click an appointment with me. Wendy at Wendy Lee Online, right? She's got some awesome info too. We're going to be doing some live events in the future. Love to see you at one of those too. That's going to be awesome. So again, everybody have a great day and make some good money moves for you and your family. Bye-bye.